Howdy, folks, and welcome back to another episode of Hookwork. As the show continues, and it's a show now, we could officially call it a show. It's morphed into something different. We bring friends in each and every episode. What's different about this particular episode is we're finally making our way into saltwater. Captain Jot Owens has been a part of Eagle Claw Trocar for a long time. His energy is infectious. There's just something about the dude that makes you want to get out and catch fish. So let's bring him in. Jot, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Eric. How are you doing?
Well, dude, honestly, we should have had this thing rolling before because we've had so much fun talking. But now that we're going to get into saltwater stuff, I want to get a little bit of your backstory. So I read a little bit of your bio on your website. You've been in the fishing world your whole life. How did you first, before it was your career, how'd you kind of dip your toes in the water of the saltwater fishing game?
Well, it started with fresh. I've been in Wilmington, Wrightsville Beach area my entire life. And it did start with freshwater, just doing little light tackle fly fishing with my father in little bass ponds. And I got infected. I was enjoying it. And then growing up around Wrightsville Beach, I would wade the waters around the island and catch sheephead and red drum and speckled trout and just all kinds of cool fish that were literally in my backyard. I was blessed to have that. And then it kind of formed into the scenario of I just want to do it for a living. And so my first job, I worked as a fish market. I worked in a fish market at the age of 15 years old. And I did that till I was about 19. And then I started commercial fishing. Tuna, wahoo, green sticking, king mackerel, grouper, bluefin. It's seasonal. So a little bit of everything. You just change the seasons. In North Carolina, we do have 4 seasons most years. But it's seasonal. But then I found out real quick that commercial fishing was going to make me an old man at a young age. And it's tough. It's not an easy industry. So then I started to work as a mate on an offshore charter boat. I did that for a while. And then in 1997, I got my captain's license and started doing a little bit of both inshore and nearshore guiding. One of the gentlemen I worked with, one of the captains I worked with, bought a small skiff because that kind of fishing was really just starting to get big, the inshore light tackle in North Carolina. And so I started doing that some, but I'd run the offshore boat as well. And then now for the last, quick math, 18 years I've owned my own charter business doing inshore and nearshore fishing. I run a 22-foot bay boat. A lot of different species, a very long list. I won't go through it, but y'all know most of those. And it's I don't know anything else. And I say that with positivity. It's what I do, and it's what I enjoy. The challenges of weather and storms and pandemics, as we learned not too long ago, it's been a growth. And I enjoy it. I enjoy the challenge of it, and I continue to do it for a long time.
Dude, I love that. I love that you said, I don't know anything else. Because as you were going through a bit of your history, I'm thinking, I'm not calling you old, dude. All right, so let me preface it by I'm not calling you old. But doesn't that technically qualify you as an old salt? I mean, you've been on the water for so long, that experience, that know-how, and to go like, and I'm going to say dude a lot. I can't help it. Yes. But to go like, this is how I'm going to make my living for the rest of my life. This is how much I love this. This is what I want to do forever. It's. I think that's one of the reasons that I've always dug you from the second I met you. Is your passion is infectious and it's unhideable. It really is. Like you could tell that you get geeked up probably for many things, but for the Denver Broncos and for fishing. So you're good in my book.
Yeah. Well, it's you talk about the old salt scenario, and of course, I will just brief since we're talking, and I just in late July I turned 47. But one thing locally, I'm kind of considered one of the older guys because I grew up with the older guys in the industry, some of the original charter boats, the Whipsaw, the Fortune Hunter, that I've worked on the back of these boats. I work with these captains, these originals, these are generational captains, so I'm one of the older guys, or older, younger guys. With time, we've seen a lot of younger guys get in the industry, and it's got to grow. Understand that, but what we're seeing now is a lot of these guys didn't grow up in the industry. And they have a different look on the industry. And I have some of them that come to me and ask, what about this? And it's little things that they don't expect or know because they haven't been in the industry their entire working life. And that's okay. You grow, you either make it or you don't. It's like anything else.
Yeah. The thing that I like about, we're very similarly aged, except for mine's way more gray when I don't put the shoe polish in it. One of the things I like about the position that we find ourselves in at a certain age is that we're still young enough to adapt to certain things, to certain trends as they come up. We're not closed-minded. You know what I mean? That's a part of it. But then pulling from the experience that you have from spending time with folks that have lived on the water, and at some point, we're tasked with the idea of sharing it with the younger generation so they too can take it a step further. But it's super cool to hear all the different facets of fishing in general that you've been a part of, and then saltwater fishing, which is now going to lead to the next part of this, which is if you don't put fish in the boat, regardless of how cool you are, you're not making a buck. You're not making a living. And like you said, you either make it or you break it. Trocar is a part of your business. It's a part of your livelihood. Talk a little bit about why you trust Trocar and rely on Trocar to put fish in the boat.
Well, beginning, and I know this is so cliche, but beginning is the simple fact that, I came to y'all after using the TK5 and understanding that it was the hook that I could use for 3 species and not use 3 different hooks for 3 different species. Mm-hmm. And I was using a different hook for cobia, a different hook for big red drum, and a different hook for tarpon. The problem is I have all these species come together from time to time. I catch them, I'll be drum fishing, I'll catch a cobia, I'll be cobia fishing, I'll catch a tarpon, and it goes all 3 of them come together. Mm-hmm. And I finally found a hook. The tough one was the tarpon with that hard, super bony mouth. That you seem like you miss more than you catch if you're not using the right hook. And started using TK5s and saw a change real quick. Some fish I shouldn't have caught the way they were hooked, that I don't think I would have with other hooks. I did. And that's when I decided to come to y'all and hopefully come up with a relationship. And here we are years later.
Legit got chills when you said that. And I'll tell you why. As an angler at any level, I don't care if you're talking professional bass fishing, you're talking about in your line of work where you have to catch them. You want gear. I'm immediate. You turn me into the ShamWow guy, dude. You want gear that makes you better than the moment. You know what I'm saying? You seeing that with a TK5 and having it change your arsenal as somebody that this is how you make your living. It's just you're going to hear this at some point. Somebody's going to make fun of me because I say I love hearing that so much, but I really, really dig that. So TK5, what sizes do you lean heavily on? And then a follow-up question to that: how are you liking the TK5 with the bait saver, the Trocar bait saver?
So I use 7s, 8s, and 9s. Traditionally, if I'm ocean fishing around our inlet, I fish Masonboro Inlet, just right around our south end of Wrightsville Beach, and it's a jettied inlet. So we're real blessed to have a very large jettied inlet. It makes for great fishing structure, but it also makes for great area to keep it calm when you get some north and east winds because it's jetty. So I'm actually in the ocean, but I'm in the protected waters. Take the structure and trout, drum, flounder, cobia, tarpon, jacks, mackerel. I could go on. The amount of species we catch out there. Anything local you can pretty much catch out there. There sailfish have been caught around there, and we're not in Florida. So it's one of those scenarios where it's an east-west, north-south intersection. And so if I'm big gaming, as in cobia, tarpon, big drum, I'm gonna be using an 8 or a 9/0. If I'm in a scenario where a lot of slot or just out of slot redfish, and just for the viewers at home, a North Carolina slot redfish is 18 to 27 inches. So if I'm catching fish or just below 27 and just above 27, and sometimes those fish will get really thick in that inlet, I'll drop down to a 7/0. Just because they're a little bit smaller fish, and I'll drop down in tackle size. But most days in and out, it's going to be an 8 or a 9, and I'm going to depict that by bait size. because I have learned, especially using the new bait saver, that by making those adjustments in hook size, especially circle hooks, because you don't have to be as critical, in my opinion, with circle hook size. I can catch big fish on a small circle hook. It's not like a J hook. That I'm going to even, the 8s and sometimes the 7s in the bait saver, because if I adjust the hook size to the bait size, then I don't get as many fouled baits. The bait saver is a great thing. It works phenomenal. But if you use too big of a hook and too small of a bait, they're still going to foul themselves. That bait can still get around to it. So making those fine adjustments really does pay off of bait size wise.
I'm trying not to say I love that, but I'm going to say it, dude. I love that. So you want to adjust your hook size based on the bait more so than you want to adjust your hook size based on the fish, which makes perfect sense. Like of course, I equate everything to bass fishing. There's saltwater guys that are punching their screen right now, but when I change hook sizes, I change based on bait. So equating that to saltwater makes perfect sense to me. Now, going back to the bait saver. You were a part in the development with this. We were sending you different samples. You were fishing them. You were giving us feedback. Tell us a little bit about how that process went.
Well, my favorite hook, TK5, the only bummer of that hook was that, especially for flat baits. When I say flat baits for heat, talking in North Carolina, I'm talking about menhaden, also known as bunker or pogies, and then green shad, also known as threadfin shad or greenies, watermelon shad. They're flat baits, so that we hook them through the nose. And the problem is being hooked through the nose. If that bait turns around or gets any kind of spin, then that especially those 9s and 8 TK5s will go right in the side of into the gill. And two things will happen. Number one is more than likely the fish is going to bleed out. It's going to go through their gills, right through their gill rakers, and they're going to bleed out and die. And sometimes we fish really clear water, and a dead bait won't catch them here, because if you're in clear water, the bait needs to be alive. But the other thing is, if the bait is fouled and still moving, and a fish does hit it when it's fouled, now the bait has become pretty much a bait saver for the fish, a fish saver. They're not going to get hooked. And I can tell you so many times I've watched that rod load up, bending over, and then come up. And I go, two things happen. The fish pulled the bait off, or the bait's fouled, and it protected the hook. Pull it in, and I can feel when I'm reeling, that bait's just a spinning. I'm like, fouled. Or there's no pressure, and that fish pulled it off. Well, the good news is the fish pulled it off or missed it, they're probably going to bite again, so I'm not too mad, because usually if I send a bait right back down there. But I started talking to y'all about that scenario, looking at ideas, and over the years, there's been different products on the market for, like, you could put on your hook and stuff, and I've tried them all. I've even glued stuff, and I was like, I'm gonna relinquish this to a hook making company that I work with and say, hey, here's a problem, let's try to fix it. And it really, and even for cut bait, not having that bait run up your line in the fall when I start fishing for the bigger reds and big bull reds, if I'm not bait fishing for them, my water gets stained. Not having that bait roll up it, because every once in a while, if that bait rolls up that line, a bluefish or a shark comes by and bites it. And I've had it happen. You'll get an immediate cutoff halfway up your line. That was something biting. It's because that piece of bait ran up your line fighting at the fishing current. So that it's not just for live bait. It's better for live bait, but it does help with cut bait as well. So
there's so many things going through my head right now. But isn't that when the best products come to life? When you have a problem and you work together to find a solution. And, and anglers at home, here's another question. So we have the scenarios where the bait saver it really does help you. It's going to help you catch more fish. And at the end of the day, it's alleviating problems. That's great. But that's how we keep score in the fishing world, is how many fish do you catch. So slender baits, correct. Bait saver is phenomenal for it up in your neck of the woods. Cut bait is fantastic. Now, when do you still lean on just the TK5 without the bait saver?
All right. This is not from a marketing standpoint. This is from Captain Jot standpoint.
Yeah. When
those daggone sharks and bluefish are taking too many of my hooks. Honestly. But with that being said, I do use them more for cut bait You know, and I would like to use the TK bait saver all the time for cut bait, but when I'm using cut bait, my shark bites are up much higher, and I'm losing some hooks. And then the other thing would be if I'm fishing one of those areas that I get hung up a lot. Now, after doing this long, I'm pretty good at figuring out where to fish and not fish, because I fished those jetties my entire, 35 years as a kid up till now. But if I'm feeling like I'm going to have a scenario where I really need to not get hung up, I'm fishing the edge of the rocks or dropping almost into the rocks, then sometimes I won't use the bait saver. And then last but not least is going to be if I am using that bait saver hook, and this is something a lot of people don't do, but there's certain situations. If I'm throwing a big glide bait or a soft plastic, a big one, a heavy soft plastic, and I'm using it in place of live bait, then I will use a TK5 just because I don't need that bait saver. That hook's going to stay in position. I will use it for that. And that is one of those scenarios where I keep a very big glide bait or a big fake artificial menhaden on the boat. Mm-hmm. And it's one of those days where a surprise fish shows up and I don't have live bait, that I will throw that out there.
So you'll have a dead bait on it, and you'll just throw it if something follows. Is that the scenario?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Very cool.
If I need, I need that last minute, just quick reaction. Now, I work with some other companies that make some great glide baits, and it's getting better. So I have more of those on the boat than I ever have. But when it comes down to tarpon and cobia, I'm a live bait guy. I am a live bait guy all the way. I am starting to enjoy trying to catch tarpon, especially on artificials, throwing big glide baits and stuff for them, because it does work. We just don't have the numbers of tarpon like Florida does. If I go out and I see 10 or 15 tarpon rolling a day when I'm tarpon fishing, that's epic. Yeah. If we haven't hooked one. I've seen 10 or 12 roll, or I've seen some push, or we've had a blow up, we've had a roll, we've had a bite. That's like ice on the cake. If you land them, that's the jackpot. So, this is more of that scenario. I've had a customer that comes and said, I want to catch, a tarpon or artificial. It's going to be a long day and you better book 3 days. Yeah. Same thing with live bait for tarpon in North Carolina. I tell most of my anglers, you want to try to catch a North Carolina tarpon, even on live bait, let's put in 2 full days. And hopefully the first day we catch one.
So how big do they get in your neck of the woods?
Actually, it's interesting you say that. So our fish typically run very large, 80 plus pounds. 100 pounder is fairly normal. But with that said, the last 6-7 years, I am seeing more and more mid-sized fish, 40 to 70s, which is fine with me. They're dumber fish.
But believe me, I can handle catching a 40-pounder. Somebody that sucks at saltwater fishing, give me a 40-pound anything, and I'm fine.
No. And I would rather it too, because when we get those 100-pound plus fish, we're on minimal, a really good angler that has been fishing a while and fought big game, 30, 40 minutes. My tourist, plus. And I'm throwing in 30 to 40-pound mono or 50-pound braid on my spinning reels, putting a lot of heat on them because I don't want these fish to die. And we catch them, the water's always above 80 degrees. So we're putting a ton of heat on them. I'm coaching my customers. That fish comes up, gulp air, pressure. But then you get this fish that's fairly green to the boat. And as a guide, there's nothing worse than trying to handle a 100-pound plus tarpon. They will beat your hands, your brains, your shoulders, your arms. So I'm happy to see these smaller fish. We're still seeing plenty of big ones, but honestly, we're seeing more numbers of tarpon than we have in the past. And I think because now that another line, a smaller line of fish are coming, so that's adding to the numbers. Before, the numbers weren't big, but man, if you caught a tarpon under 80 pounds, it was a rarity in North Carolina. And now it's starting to happen pretty often.
It's like we live on separate planets. 40 to 70-pound fish being the little ones. I do have to geek out on this a little bit. So I was listening to the Millhouse podcast, and I'm sure you know Larry Dahlberg. So it's Larry Dahlberg, and they're talking about tarpon, and they're talking about Key West back in the day with Hunter S. Thompson and Jim Harrison. It's great, but then they start talking about where the biggest tarpon in the world are. and it's off the coast of West Africa, I believe he said. And the line, the rod and reel record, I want to say is like 280.
Yeah.
Something like that. But Mr. Dahlberg, he said he has a sneaky suspicion that that critter is similar to what we catch out here, but a different species. It's just, it's these things where, you know, I'm going to go fishing on Saturday, and if I catch a 20-inch brown, I'm going to be happy. So just different worlds.
And I'll tell you something interesting. Bring it up. I'll tell you. You know, I won't get into the long story because we'd be here all day. But in 2007, I released an over 200-pound tarpon in North Carolina.
Wow.
I fought that fish for 4 hours and 21 minutes. I started at the inlet at the jetty fishing, and I made it. I was 7 miles offshore when I got that fish to the boat. Now, that fish was not officially weighed, but I had some pretty I had good measurements, and I had some scales. The fish was released, but I had got some good measurements, and I sent it to some people in Florida that work with tarpon, and the estimation was 210 to 230. So I just say 200. The state record at that time in North Carolina was 164. It has been broke 3 times since then. I think the state record is 194 right now. But going full circle, I worked very hard years later to make North Carolina tarpon a no-kill species, no gaff, no spear. And so it kind of worked out well. I didn't land that fish because then I'd be protecting my record. But it's one of those situations. You know, the tarpon are visiting us in our area. You know, the vast majority of tarpon in North Carolina do get caught off the piers, off the fishing piers, because they are right in the access to the migratory pattern. I mean, most of those fish can't go past a pier. They have to go past a pier, you know. So it's one of those things that a lot of fish got killed on the piers. And I felt like it was something, and a lot of the people did too. And I went under fire for that. It is what it is. But fish are very important to many different states. They're fairly high migratory, as in we're tarpon now go all the way to New Jersey. You know, and regularly to the Chesapeake Bay. You know, but that was a cool experience. I'm glad I saw it. I got great photos. I got some scales.
You have to send that to us. You have to send that to us. You have to send us the photos. And on protecting tarpon, I again, a Colorado guy. Of course, I'm gonna quote a fly angler here, Lee Wolf. A game fish is far too valuable to only be caught once. You know what I mean?
Amen. Absolutely.
So
Well,
super cool. Now there was a segue that you worked into that when we were talking about tarpon. That was like I sent you a script. I can assure you we don't send scripts. I'm way too spazzy for that. But swim baits. You do fish a lot of paddle-tail swim baits, and you rely heavily on the TK170, the mag swim bait hook, the mag Trocar swim bait hook. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, so, you know, it started, it's funny because it started with striped bass fishing in the Cape Fear River. That is my winter fishery. Typically later December, early January, I switch over from the saltwater, and it's still saltwater, but it's brackish. I'm literally fishing downtown Wilmington up the Cape Fear River, and these fish will bite in much colder water. So when my speckled trout bite ends, typically sometime in December, when that water gets in the low 50s, upper 40s, I switch over and start fishing the Cape Fear River because the striped bass, they really, I can't, it does get too cold, but rarely. So when the water's in that upper 40s, I leave the trout when they're not biting, and the stripers are already biting good. They've already been biting. So I can fish for these fish. And the biggest problem was for years is we did a lot of trolling because a lot of these fish are hanging in 8 to 15 foot of water in very high current. Knot and a half to 3 knots, especially on falling tide when it's, you know, falling tide and it's going with the flow of the river. And we called them trolling, but it's just not that much fun. And I mean, they whack the trolling rods. We're using crankbaits and stuff like that, you know, midwater crankbaits. And it's fun. I still do it with kids and families that can't fish, but I was trying to find a scenario other than throwing a crankbait and wearing your arms out all day that some customers can't do. To find a bait that I get down a little further on those other ledges, and I knew it was going to wash out, but if I could just hit that first, second, and third ledge. And so I started looking, and then I found that TK170 3/8 ounce, with a 5 or 6 inch paddle tail, and just slow rolling it and bumping the bottom. And man, when they hit it, you're a bass fisherman,
Yeah.
smallmouth. They whack it. And if it's a bigger striper, we'll get a double bite. Bigger stripers have a tendency to flush it with their nose or nick it with their nose, bump it. And it's one of those scenarios I tell my customers when I'm teaching them how to cast on the boat that if you feel a tick, just swing the rod. Because if you stay out of the bite, by the time you said that, you're going to miss them because it's going to be tick and then thump.
Yeah.
And so I feel that tick where they hit it with their nose because they're bad for doing that. And you just go on and turn your body and set that hook. And I mean, cross their eyes because they have a tough mouth.
Yeah.
And you got them. And then I graduated to using, the laser sharp 444 1114G.
Yeah.
We're using for a little lighter in the 1/8 ounce or 1/4 ounce, and doing the same thing for redfish, shallow water up around Wrightsville in the summertime, kind of breaking away from the top water bite when the sun gets high and it's hard to catch this fish on top water, going to swim bait. And all of a sudden, we were getting those bites that we were missing on top water, or customers that can't walk the dog. Cause as you know, not everyone can walk the dog. And if you don't walk it properly, you're just going to get swings and misses. Throwing that swim bait out there and catching these reds and occasionally a jumbo flounder on a swim bait. So that TK 170 in the 3 3/8 ounce has been a deal breaker. And then last but not least, something that's very important to me as a guide, any angler, I can't afford to lose many lures. I mean, it adds up. It takes away from the bottom line is the river is full of timber. When I fish at the beach, we get hung up, I can usually go up there and get it off.
Yeah.
But if you hang up a crankbait or a diving bait in there, any kind of Magnum or anything, it's gone 9 out of 10 times. It's timber. It's cypress, softened cypress.
Yeah.
I can usually, if I get hung up with that swim bait hook, I can get it off. But most of the time, it doesn't get hung because I tell my customers, rub and racing, just let it rub the bottom. They love it rubs the bottom. It makes more noise. And man, we throw that 90% of the time now. It's just changing the color with the water qualities.
Yeah.
And I'm using that bait. And I still use the 3/8 sometimes at the beach if I'm in an area where there's a little more current or it's a creek bank that turns where it gets deeper quicker. Then I might throw that 3/8 there to get it down, even on the saltwater scenario versus a brackish.
The whole time you were talking right there, I was resisting the urge to do that. Because as soon as you started talking about them bumping it and then throttling it, it's just it's one of those things where 1,000 times it's just so going back to the hooks. I get talking to our pro staff and I get so geeked up that sometimes I don't get as hook centric as maybe I should. So the TK5 and the TK5BS, a huge tool in your arsenal as a guide. And again, the folks at home, if you don't follow Captain Jot by now, what are you doing with your life? Go follow Captain Jot. But this is how you make your money. So there are no second chances for the most part. You want anglers, and here's the other part. Normally when we're sitting here and we're talking trocar, we're talking about tournament bass fishing. We're talking about bass fishing at the highest level. You need anglers at any skill level to perform. Any skill level. So these are the hooks you rely on. And then going to the TK 170, did the whole time you were talking, all I could think about was Rubbins racing, so that TK 170 on the bottom, going like this and just getting thumped. And I just, I mean, so here's my question. You guide, like you said, North Carolina's got 4 seasons. Stripers, they're biting in the wintertime. What are the times and species that you live to fish for? Not to guide for, but you live to fish for. Like if you had 2, you're like, I'll never miss this in a year. It's this bite and this bite.
Honestly, the winter striper fishing, and I tell you why, because I'm not as busy. I get to fun fish more in the winter than ever. This time of year, I've got a couple of days off for weather right now. We're getting a bunch of rain and stuff. And there's plenty to do. I'm self-employed. I mean, house stuff, boat stuff. I went on the boat today, iced up and fueled up for my trips, coming tomorrow in the next couple of days. But for me, because I don't fish every day, I enjoy watching customers do it. So it does kind of give me that oomph of going fishing. And I do have a lot of retired guys and gals that fish with me, and they want me to fish with them. So I do get to fish, but most of the time I'm baiting hooks, unhooking fish, running the boat, running the trolling motor, telling them where to cast. So striper fishing in the winter, I always do a lot of that for fun because there's plenty of pretty days and I'm not booked up. And then the other thing is that I live for and it has come and gone in North Carolina. We haven't had a great season in a few seasons. I'm still catching them, but cobia fishing, man, there's nothing better than rolling up to a bait ball, or just sight fishing a big cobia and throwing out a live bait on a TK5 and just watching them eat it and telling the customer, do not jerk, but the fish on the weights and circle hook. But I could tell you so many stories of yanked circle hooks and scales coming out of the cobia's mouth and me just wanting to cry. But I'd say cobia and stripers. But I love speckled trout fishing. We're seasonal, so I'm lucky. It would be hard for me to be a bass guy because I do like to bass fish, and I do some bass fishing, but it's in the wintertime. We have a heated power plant lake just outside of Wilmington, Sutton Lake, and I do that. I run some trips out there, but I do that because it's different. It's not the MO. But I don't think I could be a guide on one lake doing the same thing. Now, I know seasons change and lures change with bass fishing, but about the time, I won't say I get burned out on a species, but by the time I'm like, man, I've caught enough of those, here comes another species. So it keeps it real, it keeps it fun.
Very variety is the spice of life. It's super, and the power plant stuff. I don't want to get death threats, but I'll just say that I fish some power plant stuff around where I live, kinda, in a way. But yeah, and I agree. Like for me, I fish for everything. In fact, when you're talking about getting burnt out, my tournament season, there's times where it kind of gets in the way with what I want to do. Like this time of year, I want to chase big pike. Big pike, I mean, it's just the way they eat. I'm going to be quiet. You're talking about 200 pounders, and I'm going back to freshwater. Jot, my last question, and I want to emphasize something before the last question. Again, that's just that this is how you make your living, and you believe in our hooks, and we believe in you as well. But it's a different aspect when it comes to saltwater fishing and talking with a guide, and just how you have the ability to stay on fish, different species as they adapt throughout the season, and then to shift. Goes back to that. I don't know if old salt is a cool saying or not because I'm not in the saltwater world. I would wear it like a badge of honor because it's at some point you turn into the water. You know what I mean? Like you're a part of it. You're a part of the ecosystem, and clearly that's your understanding of the waters. You have a depth of it that most people truly will never understand. You know what I mean? So I like picking the brain of passionate people. It's something that it fills my cup. And hook work has turned into something that I feel like it's like my baby, and now I'm not talking specifically about hooks, but it's all important, right? Okay?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Like I said earlier, it comes full circle.
Yeah, and this is going to be way out of left field, but I'm going to tie it in this way. For folks that don't know, all of Trocar hooks are made right here in Denver, Colorado, the way they've always been. We're very proud of that fact. And most of us in this building are also very proud of the Denver Broncos. Jot, you're a Broncos fan. First, tell me how it happened, and then tell me how you think the season's going to go.
Well, it happened. So years ago, we didn't have the Carolina Panthers here. And a really good dear friend of mine who lives here now and has lived here a long time is from Denver. And growing up, I went to Denver quite a bit, snowboarding up at Breckenridge, visiting, Denver. We had mutual friends in Wyoming, Montana. So, we're based out of Denver, traveling around. And so I got to know a lot of people out there. And so we would go to games. And the first game I went to, and I can't quote the year, but it was AFC Championship game against the Steelers in Denver, and we were flying out that day to go on a ski trip. And my friend that was from Denver said, if everything lines up and we beat the Patriots next week, the game will be when we land. And we beat the Patriots. And so, we land and we're driving, we're parking, we're running to Mile High, and the jets are flying over. I'll never forget this. Now, unfortunately, we lost that game. But it was that was the start for me, as a Bronco fan, and I started following because he was always watching it when I came over, And so it kind of morphed to that. Now I do like the Carolina Panthers. I get to go a lot of those games because in Charlotte It's only 3.5 hours away. But let me tell you what, Super Bowl 50 really fixed all that. And I had some family friends that weren't, I mean, literally my wife dropped me off at one house for that Super Bowl, and she went to another house for a party because I wasn't invited.
Yeah. Now that's the Super Bowl where Von Miller changed the game a little bit there. And our buddy Cam Newton didn't want to dive for a fumble, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he had Cam Newton. When we started running the wishbone, I was like, I think we might have this. And I did learn that defense wins championships.
So how do you think we're going to do this year? Bo Nix is rolling, everything's rolling.
I'm excited. I didn't watch the 49ers game, but I did watch all the highlights.
Yeah.
And I mean, everybody looked good. They got to get grooving. Only it's Christian only having 3 preseasons games this year. Seeing starters on the first preseason game was kind of interesting to say the least. But I'm excited. We got some weapons. We've kept our rhythm. Our backup quarterback does not look bad at all. And I mean, I'm not, don't want to say that, but it's nice to have one if you need one, So I'm excited. I mean, listen, we went way further than I thought we were going to go last year. So I'm stoked for this year.
1,000%. So the Denver Broncos, we make Trocar hooks right here in Denver the way it's always been. I think we're going to beat the Chiefs in the AFC Championship and go to the show. That's just my prediction. And we're going to love every minute of it.
Yeah, I believe the Chiefs. I love Andy Reid, and that's the only part of the Chiefs I like. I respect that man. He's a great coach. He deserved to win after all the years of the bad stuff. But it's time to move on.
Yeah. But I mean, I just think that it's one of those things where, I think we'll do just great. So, Jot, real quick, and again, for anybody that's going, why are you guys talking football? Denver, Trocar, American-made fish hooks, Denver Broncos. It makes sense. Make it make sense. Anything you want to leave folks with before we let you go this time, and we're going to have you back on soon because it's been great.
Awesome. No, hey, just check me on Instagram, Captain Jot Owens, Facebook, Captain Jot Owens. Say, hey, come fishing with me. I'm always here, and I'm not afraid to answer fishing questions. I mean, I tell my customers all the time when they have customers that come and they want to learn stuff, don't be afraid to just send me a message on Messenger. Just don't expect to get out instantly. I'm a busy man, self-employed. But I will. I don't mind helping people. I get questions all the time. So if you got a saltwater fish question, you're coming on vacation, I can probably answer it pretty good. Mostly through North Carolina to northern Florida, I can probably get you a good answer. So if you do, don't be afraid. I'm a teacher at heart. I teach a lot of fishing schools and seminars. Do my own fishing school. I work with the Saltwater Sportsman National Seminar Series with George Poveromo. So I really like teaching fishing. It's part of the game for sure. So don't be afraid to reach out.
I love that, and that's one of the things that we really pride ourselves with all of our partners is they want to be a resource, they want to help you. Jot, and Old Salt, I hope that's a good saying. I'm a bass guy, but we appreciate you so much, dude, and go Broncos.
You got it, brother. Thanks for having me.